Yo, what's up? What's happening? What's your deal? What's going on in your life? Is it okay? Anything specific that you'd like to talk about? Any problems that you're having in your daily life? Maybe it's something with a coworker, maybe a lover, a boss. It's hard to know, but if you're having some sort of difficulty, could it be possible that has something to do with what's going on with Guy? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo.
What are you supposed to do about it? What could you possibly do about
Power
it?
cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading. Plus 30 seconds.
Alright, what's happening, guys? Big Truth here. That's what's happening. I gotta take the headphones off. Go crazy with the latency. Yeah, how's everybody doing? What's today? Is it the 20th yet? Yeah, exactly. It's the 20th of January. That's where we're at right now. Apparently there's this blood moon coming up. Everybody seems to be talking about this blood moon. I don't really get it. I mean, it's gonna be pretty cool. I would think, to see the moon turn red. But what? I was just watching some like flat earthers trying to explain how, there's no way that what's the argument that eclipses could be doing what they say they're doing because, basically, it's physically impossible. Let me pull up a picture of this thing. Have to find out when it is. Yeah, everybody's getting ready for it, right? But they were saying that this whatever the schematic that they got here, that this just basically isn't physically possible. Yeah, I don't know. Flat Earth one is a really, really tricky one. It's hard to know with Flat Earth. Definitely seems like PSYOP. Something that they would do to poison the well. But then again, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not an optical scientist or anything. But it's really hard to know. Like, is this really what's happening when this eclipse is gonna happen tomorrow? You got gigantic sun, and it's gonna make the moon red because we're in the way. And I'm obviously gonna do some of my own observations, see what's going on with that. Because, yeah, I'm always trying to get some good pictures of the moon. That's right, I was gonna look for, taking some pictures today and yesterday, yeah, because they've been spraying a bunch again. Whatever you consider that to mean. I was gonna try to pull this up. Let's see if it actually comes through. Yeah, check this out. These ones. Bear with me. These are some pictures that I just took tonight of the moon. Scene. Because I'm going to want to look at these other pictures as well. But let's check this out. Go. So have a look at these on a bigger screen, so that should be interesting. Yeah, so this is just with my iPhone. But it's interesting to see this sort of. I mean, this is the obvious lens flare from the iPhone. So don't want to get caught up in that in any meaningful way. But right here, just trying to pull this together. Alright, they were spraying a bunch. This is when the moon was just rising earlier tonight. And you can see even that, it's a full moon, so it's really actually pretty easy to see the sky itself. But yeah, hopefully you can see that. You can see these the trails that they were laying. Right, there's two of these are older, from a couple hours maybe, and this is right as it was happening, and this is just, yeah, it's just from a couple hours ago. I got it from a couple different angles. Right, so this, because I was listening to another guy, a lot of people talking about chemtrails all over the time. I was listening to Greg Carlwood's podcast. Edge of Wonder was just doing a thing, and they were saying how, there's all these celebrities. Everybody was talking about what's going up there in the sky, and it's also the easiest way to get laughed at, the easiest conspiracy theories, because this is a perfect example of what I'm trying to at least highlight. Is I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it, but here's something, right? It's easier to take a picture of. These are a bunch of long, consistent clouds that were created by planes. There's no real doubt about that. I mean, these are clouds that, but that's the question. Are they planes? Are they holograms? Are they orbs? Are they some other sort of alien technology? It's hard to say. I would say it's hard to say. So, right, but this was a couple hours ago, and this next picture is a couple hours after that. Right, and here is that perfect halo that they talk about a bunch, that you can find if they've sprayed or not. Basically, some say this comes from barium. So that's sort of my question here, is that were they spraying this stuff, and that's why the halo ends up around it a couple hours later, at least from my vantage point. This was a very powerful one. It almost seemed like it was like pushing the clouds away from it. But the light itself, that one's a little blurry, obviously. Do I have anything else here? Yeah, no, I just got a couple of them, but right. So I think that's pretty interesting, and that's today, the day before the super blood mega destruction moon that we got talking about here. Let's go see if there's any pictures of this kind of thing. Moon, halo. Actually, don't know, right? Because you can pull up a bunch of these. It happens periodically. I mean, it's definitely not the first time I've seen it. Well, what would be their what's the standard explanation for this? Let's go check out Wikipedia. There's another hexagon. We'll get back into the hexagons a little later. Hexagons everywhere, I'm telling you. Hexagons not stop. They're just saying it's going through the ice crystals, right? So maybe that wasn't really very cold at all tonight. So I don't know about ice crystals. It's definitely not freezing over here in LA, but right, and you can check through this stuff, but you know, maybe this is really just what is happening. But I definitely know there's also a ton of speculation and a lot of different explanations for, you know, what this phenomenon actually is. And there's a lot of people just talking all over the internet, you know, and it's obviously hard to get to the bottom of really anything. But I don't know. I took this picture. I saw it. You can take my word for it, at least, that this is what I saw tonight, and I can see it with the naked eye. And when you take the picture, it's a pretty good one, actually. Very symmetrical. Right, so, and these are actually from a couple days ago, but this gives you more of a general view of what it's like here in LA, pretty much all the time. You'll get this big streak, and it'll stay pretty consistently. You know, that's sort of texture and size until it spreads out to, I mean, basically these thicker ones here. These lines are more dissipated ones that were earlier that day. And you can see, trying to get another time lapse going, you can see that getting formed over the course of the day if you're actually paying attention. Alright, so here's another one. This is a lot more streaky kind of things, right? 'Cause I'm trying to be able to tell the different types of clouds, because you will get some normal clouds on a day like this. It's hard to say if any of this down here is real clouds, right? But these are obviously contrails. And, you know, it really doesn't matter where you look up. You're going to see some of, yeah, and this is, I like this quote. Here, this is Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teaching of All Ages. And he's saying, I mean, who knows where he got it from, and this book was written a long ass time ago. It's possible. It's possible. I've heard a bunch of different stories about the pyramids. Definitely a whole bunch of different conflicting ideas and elements about the pyramids and what they are and what they mean. It's a giant battery. It's a space alien stick, right? There is some sort of truth, you know, maybe a very complex truth. There has to be some sort of truth about the pyramids. There has to be actual some, you know, what the real story is. There's just so much wild speculation, and there has been, I think, ever since they sort of figured it out, what was going on there, because it was definitely big in this guy's time, Egypt obsession, and it hasn't really gotten any better ever since. They're saying, yeah, 70,000 years ago, that's when they were made. And I don't know, I'm not sure. That's probably what Manly P. Hall was thinking at his time. I guess he lived into the 20th century, but, you know, he was a pretty important, heavy researcher at the time, and so, I mean, I've heard all sorts of different things. If you watch enough YouTube videos, you will hear basically every possibility about the pyramids and what they could possibly mean. This is just an email that I got from Spotify. Because there's also endless videos about occult, whatever, everything that the evil Satanists are doing in Hollywood and all over culture, and that it's all full of, right, occult meaning, and that it's actually getting more brazen and more outspoken in recent times, and that, yeah, you should go watch that recent Truth Stream Media video where they're talking about just a bunch of different recent shows and movies, like the new Sabrina, and what's his name, Jack Black, the House with the Clock on Its Walls, and these are like kids shows supposedly, but full of actual like spells and incantations and real grimoires and the real deal, basically, of historical magic, and it's quite, the magic and witches have been around for a super long time, but what is this sudden sort of swing towards a more realistic, documented sort of style of presentation, at least? There just seems to be sort of an infiltration on every level of the occult into your daily life. So I thought this was hilarious from Spotify, that you're going to have a horoscope for, or you already have a horoscope. You can have a playlist for your horoscope, so you can look up and find your star sign and write this playlist. I don't know, what is it going to do? It's going to sync up with your future and make sure you have a better future. And at least from my research, it definitely seems like magic is real. I mean, there's just, you have to go through a lot of different stuff, but it seems like in some form or another, there is something about it, that the consciousness has power, and that you have the ability to affect the world with your consciousness, and that's, I'd say that's like a basic definition of magic. And so, I don't know, maybe there is some big reveal that's coming up that they're going to try to get out. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. And there was just a couple more. I mean, these are just from in town, but this is nice with, I'm going to take a closer look here at the sun. Come on, bruh. Right, but really sort of thick layers here, and I don't know, it's interesting to see the patterns that get made. I was just out there looking, and sometimes the clouds are just this milky, smooth, it's almost like it's cream flowing through coffee that hasn't been mixed through yet, right? And then other times you see this more, whatever the word is, striated sort of ripples that are happening. These are a lot more fluffy, and that's definitely the contrail material right there. I think I don't know, it's just interesting to study the evolution and see what's going on day to day up there. Oh, damn. Wait, where was it? I was just here, yeah. Yeah, it's hard with any of these cameras to get any sort of good imagery on the sun. But you end up with this mess, right? Distorts, and it's interesting. There is a real cloud, so you can kind of compare and contrast against the other clouds, right? And that one's much more foreground. So I'll try to dig out more interesting stuff, but I think that it's just the more standard stuff that I'm interested in, because that's where you see everything hidden. All right, and this was some panorama that I did super fast and terrible. It's all cut off, but you can see the trails going in all sorts of different directions, and right, it's obviously distorted because that's the power line. It's interesting to see this rainbow going its head right in the sun. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get more pictures with my real camera, because I mean the iPhone will only get you so much quality, as you're aware. But what else did we want to get into? I guess we were just getting started on the hexagons because, yeah, I made some videos before that the sound didn't work on, so it's worth checking out again. It's worth checking out again. What we were just looking at. So maybe I'll pull this in the middle. Right, I have some other ideas here. Right, we were just looking at. What was the hexagons we were looking at? In Blind Spot, right? I had it in this file. Obviously, you gotta get super better at getting organized, but I'd say that's also sort of the point. Is that if they just drown everybody in material, then it's impossible to get to the bottom of anything, because there's just too many threads to follow, and then they had to have the fortitude or even the attention span to stick with one thing and follow it all the way to its conclusion. People just mostly aren't capable of that anymore, it feels like. And I can feel myself, as well, just being affected by the culture. It's hard to get around it. Right, so I'm pretty sure we were looking at this. This is just a still from Blind Spot. It's a show on some network, I forgot which. Just standard, FBI, CIA propaganda to get you to think properly about how our beautiful agencies work and how good they are at catching bad guys, because it seems like it's super fun to work at either of those agencies as it is portrayed in the show. And, that's a whole other fake truth that the CIA and FBI have, in all the branches of the government, have direct interactions with Hollywood and the shows that are going on there. It's impossible, again, to know really what the actual details are of said agreements, but, I'd say they'd run everything that has to do with portraying the image of these agencies on said agencies. They run it by them. So, anyways, the point here is the hexagons, though. This is the main character hanging out with the other main character, right? You don't really care. She got tattooed a bunch of Illuminati-style puzzles all over her body, and then they were fixing it. They were trying to solve clues and find bad guys with the tattoos. Basically pretty contrived. But, you can see parts of it as she's walking around, right? And it's I just noticed this, that on her hand is right, a beacon, this hexagon pattern here, right? And it's interesting that it's on his hand, and then it's also interesting just to catch this frame that the hand is on his face. Right, but this is something she can't get away from. It's on her. It's been tattooed onto her, and that's I don't know. That's my whole thing. Is hexagons have meaning. Hexagons have meaning, and symbols do as well. So here, right? I'm just gonna show you a couple more, just to get your mind thinking about it. I was in the bathroom, some restaurant, and these are the tiles on the wall. They're hexagons. Right? And I can almost hear people watching this be like, what the fuck? This is so stupid. Like, it depends on where you're at in your, truth-seeking experience. You get more and more able to entertain fantastical ideas for longer, I think, the more time you spend in the truther community. Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but it does make it hard to know what's real at all, after a certain point. But here's some hexagons in the bathroom, right? They could have chosen any sort of pattern, and I see this often in bathrooms that on the floor, or this is on the wall, but that they often use these hexagons as tile patterns. So maybe they just fit together really nicely, and then they don't have to use as many tiles or something. I'm trying to think of other logical explanations you could think for using hexagons. They look kind of stylish. These are not really beautiful. They're kind of elongated and weird looking. Right. Definitely watch a lot of TV. That'll become apparent. This is another still from True Detective. You see it here. There's a hexagon on top of the TV. They're watching TV, and this is a report about the girl getting stolen or something like that. Right, and that's actually, if you zoom it in, that's just one of these hexagon fish bowls. Which you can see, this is like pretty classic actually. See these in all the homes. Some classic hexagon. You're right, and you can put cocktails in there or something. I mean, this one is for drinks, but you see these. Right, it's a piece of like Americana almost. The hexagon, right? The fish in this hexagon, and I think that paints the picture really well as well. Because that's what I'm trying to get at. Anytime you see this hexagon, it's sort of a grid. It's like you see it on the hand, right? That's a grid of control, and you fit yourself into that little hexagon, and then the next B over is in the other little hexagon, and everybody just has a super fantastic time because you're fitting together, you're working together. And bees are a whole other fascinating symbol. You could read a ton about bees and their sort of communication and how they work together. It is pretty magical in a sense. But I want to get back. Get rid of that 10. Right, this is on top of the TV in True Detective. So obviously, I mean, this is a very meticulously done show, and you could just say, yeah, it's random. Just obviously, fishbowl. It's on the TV, but why would you put the fish on the TV? That seems like a weird place to put the fish. And just the location of the symbol over what the emotional content is going on here of this lost girl, and everybody is sitting around looking at the TV. In the vein of the blind spot example, this is a picture of my shoe, or just a pair of my shoes, and this is inside the shoe, right in the sole, which is again another fascinating word. I think and these words have meaning, symbols have meaning, all these things have meaning. That the sole of your foot, that's the same word as your soul, right? I mean, it always seems strange to me, but there definitely is something to it. That's the part that's touching the ground, and it's a whole, right? You can go down a mega rabbit hole of esoteric meaning behind all sorts of different things. But the point is that they put hexagons inside of the shoe, so all day long you're walking around and stepping on these hexagons. That's sort of your daily experience. And just the same way it's burned into her hand, right? It's somehow branded on you or put in front of you, or right, in some way just sort of presented to you. And it's a longer argument to make, but yeah, that whatever symbols you're looking at, whatever is even in your field of view, whether you're realizing it consciously or not, is able to affect you. And if you're able to pay attention and see something a little different, then I think that helps break the spell almost. I think it's still highly effective. The symbols will do their work, but at least you'll be aware and be able to get your conscious mind out in front of it, possibly, at least before it's too late.
Something